Guys, I want to get loud all of a sudden.
Do it.
Sorry, I'm going to...
It's you. I knew it was coming.
I'm sorry, guys,
Can't
but I
hold 'em
need
back.
to do that.
It is. You feel like Poseidon chucking that bugger down in the water.
Sucking that bugger. Did you butt out that deer?
I did not butt out that deer, but the next one I get, it's getting its butt out.
Is that little Stevie out here in the back?
Drobop. Bow drop, I'm sorry. Drobop. Hello. Stay tuned. I'll be back after my seizure.
Every little chipmunk that was running around, everything's dead quiet, and I went like that. Just happened.
I saw what is in essence a nature-gasm.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Rutten River Pursuits podcast. We are gathered around the Sonic Campfire tonight for an awesome, exciting episode. I'm Steve.
I'm Will.
It's Uncle Buck.
Hey, I'm Ryan.
I'm Catfish.
I'm Kyle.
What's happening, fellas?
Dude.
What's up, buddy?
What up?
Howdy.
No pleasantries, no small talk. We're going to get right to it
No
tonight.
pleasantries indeed. I've been saying that since I saw you tonight.
What is this? Bob Ross painting?
Absolutely not.
Pleasant trees.
Pleasant trees.
Happy
clouds.
happy little bushes.
I see what you did there.
Little rock right here.
We're going to jump right into it.
Oh, yeah?
Get on with
We
it.
have tonight our first for us, really.
This is
Two-time Olympic medalist on the USA shooting team, Cory Cogdell.
Hey, Cory.
Hey, welcome, Cory.
Hey guys, how's it going? You guys got a full crew tonight.
Oh, this is every night. Yeah.
Cory, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to chat with you guys tonight. It's a beautiful night here in Florida, so all is good.
Oh, bless your heart down in Florida. Is it hot? Is it been? It's got to be something bad.
Yes, it's very hot. I'm about as far away from home as I can get. So yeah, coming from Alaska, this is like a heat wave for me.
Oh yeah.
Jeez.
That's
You know
the
what's
other
crazy?
end of the
though?
spectrum.
Alaska and Florida, as far apart away as they are, seem to have the same mosquito problem.
Yes, I completely agree with you. That's literally one of the first things I told my husband when we moved here. I was like, "This is just like Alaska, except there's like 10,000 more mosquitoes and they're smaller."
Yep.
That's terrible.
Wow.
So you grew up in Alaska, Cory?
I did. Yep. I was born and raised up there. Pretty much lived all of my, younger years up there. Moved out of Alaska when I was 19 to pursue the Olympic shooting sports. But Alaska has a very special place in my heart.
Now, whereabouts in Alaska? Like, was it a remote part of Alaska, or I guess pretty much all of Alaska is remote, right?
Yeah.
There's not.
It is fairly remote. So I was born in a little town called Chickaloon, and that was a town of about 300 people. That was about 3.5 hours from Anchorage. And then when I was about 4 or 5 years old, my family moved to a town called Eagle River, which is about 20 miles outside of Anchorage. And that's where I spent most of my childhood growing up.
Wow. So how many people were in like your high school, for example?
Well, I actually was homeschooled growing up, so it was me and my sister, doing the whole high school thing at home. But we did have a local high school. I think they had, graduations of around 60 to 80 people. So,
Wow.
Not extremely small, but definitely small town for sure.
When I was in Alaska in '97, I went to a town called Palmer. Are you familiar? I only bring it up because there's one thing specifically I remember. I was only in Palmer for a few days till we flew north, but it had the best breakfast I've ever eaten in my entire life. Because I guess I want to say that I think I'm not stereotyping here, but I don't know if Alaskans have really long days, so they gear up for a long day of work, but when this lady brought me pancakes, she brought me like 700,000 calories full. Like it was a plate full of pancakes with some kind of rhubarb syrup on it or something.
Sounds delicious.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Yeah, so Palmer is only about 15 to 20 minutes from where I grew up. And that sounds like a lot of the little small diners in Alaska. Either you were going to go into a carb coma or you were going to go out and hike around and hunt something.
Yes. Oh, man. I was in the carb
It's
coma.
one or the other.
Carb coma.
Yeah, and I was jammed in next to a guy in a Piper Cub, shoulder to shoulder, that had duct tape on the wings. So, yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah. That's standard for Alaska.
I noticed.
If your plane's not duct taped together, it's no fun.
There was like 3 of the 5 gauges missing out of the dashboard. I mean, he was a good pilot, but
Sounds like my first car.
Those weren't the important ones. So. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just licking his finger and sticking it out the window to check the wind.
pretty much. The only thing I do remember, and God bless his heart, he's gone now. He's not around anymore, so I can talk about him. But I remember him flying around the mountains as we went out to the hunting camp, and he said, "I'm just going to take a lap around the mountain here to look for sheep," which I'm not allowed to do. So why don't you look out the other window?
Oh man, that sounds like all the old codgers that my dad grew up with.
Yeah,
He's like, I'm pretty sure that might be against the rules, but I'm just going to close my eyes.
Yeah, I think he was around 60 in 1997, so he didn't abide by any of the standard rules. He was cool.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
What'd you do to keep busy up there, Cory?
You know, growing up, I pretty much lived to fish with my dad when I was growing up. That was pretty much our summer tradition. You know, being homeschooled, I had the luxury of being able to kind of make my own school hours. And most of the time, you know, that was after we had gone fishing or hunting. So I did a lot of fishing and hunting growing up. I was really big into mountain bike racing when I was younger as well. In the winter, of course, you know, you got to find something to do. So I did a lot of downhill skiing, got a little bit into racing when I was in high school. And then I pretty much found competitive shooting. And once I, you know, kind of stumbled upon that, that pretty much consumed the rest of my time.
I can totally see Cory as a young girl, and like in the wintertime when it's dark all the time, it's whatever, 500 below, whatever it is in Alaska where she grew up. I can see her with like a small 410 in the back porch going, I'll be back. I'm going to go shoot 4 or 5 rounds and then come back in and warm up and go back out. How long?
Yeah, you gotta find something to keep you busy in the long winters. I mean, it's dark and it's cold, and 9 months of winter will make you crazy.
What got you into the competition shooting? It seems to me that the way you were talking, that you didn't get into it until later, a little bit later in life, like in your teens, and you weren't raised with it necessarily.
Yeah, so I definitely didn't do any competition shooting until I was in high school. You know, I grew up shooting just basically to learn how to shoot for hunting with my dad. But I got involved with a local 4-H program when I was in high school. And I got to do air rifle, air pistol, archery, and shotgun shooting. So I got to kind of taste everything. And as soon as I saw that first target explode and, you know, kind of had that instant gratification of, you know, breaking something in midair, I was just totally hooked. So I started doing it, you know, kind of at a local level. I was actually one of the first, part of one of the first all-girls shooting teams for the 4-H, and that was really cool growing up, you know, having that camaraderie with all these other, you know, female shooters. So that kind of, you know, got me my start and helped me stick around.
At what turning point did that take? Like, at what point did somebody either see you or you realized, or maybe your dad went, wow, she's like better than everybody at this? Like, at what turning point go, okay, this is where I'm going with this?
I would say probably, you know, when I was 16 or 17, I started really progressing. You know, I get this question a lot, and I have to be completely honest. When I first started shooting shotguns, I was 14, and I was really terrible. I just sucked. I mean, I think I hit like 3 targets out of my first 25. I had eye dominance issues, and I just really couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. So it really took me a while to figure out all of that stuff. And, you know, if you ask any of my friends, they'll tell you that I'm just an extremely hard-headed, competitive person. So, you know, anything that I feel like is beating me, I'm going to just go like full on until I figure out how to beat it. And that was kind of what kept me sticking around with shooting long enough for it to really become a passion of mine, is because I just really sucked for a long time. So when I was probably like 16 or 17, I kind of started progressing, and I started, you know, winning national match or state matches. And my coach at that time started taking me to some national matches, and I started placing pretty well nationally in the American style of trap shooting. And that's really when, you know, I think I thought, you know, maybe I could take this farther. Maybe, you know, this isn't just a hobby. Maybe I could do this more of a profession, and started researching, you know, kind of where I could go with the shooting sport.
Gotcha. I love the fact of your story of your life where you took something that you weren't real great at and just pushed and pushed and pushed. You became the best at it. You know, like Stevie, you should learn something from that. Whenever you don't catch anything with Ned rigs, just keep pushing.
I'm done
pushing until eventually you'll catch some.
Don't do it, Stevie.
No. Say, don't give up.
I'm done.
You're headstrong. You stay that way.
Cory, you just mentioned American style trap shooting. I'm a
just say
a novice at shooting.
Just get it out.
What exactly is American style? Are there other styles? Can you kind of break that down for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So American style trap shooting is what you will find at most of your local gun clubs. So there's American style trap and skeet shooting. So for instance, American style trap shooting, the targets fly about 40 to 45 miles an hour. They come out of one single trap house. There's one machine inside that. It oscillates left to right. And then there's, 5 shooting stations behind it. So those targets, the hardest angle they'll get is about 17 degrees left to right. And they are always the same height. So international trap, which is what's shot in the Olympics, and international skeet is considerably different than that. So for instance, international trap, there's a 60-foot long in-ground bunker, so it's level with the ground. Inside that, there's 15 trap machines. Those machines throw the target 60 to 80 miles an hour, and the hardest angle you can get is a 45-degree left to right, and they also vary in height from about 3 feet off the ground to 15 feet. So you can get really anything within that spectrum. So trap is really, the word trap just means that it's a going away target, and skeet is more of a crossing target. So just because it's American trap doesn't mean that that's actually what is shot in the Olympics. It's just a going away target that describes trap, which is kind of confusing. A lot of people are kind of think that, what we shoot in the Olympics is what you find at your local gun club. But that's very, that's just not the case. There's only about 12 places in the United States that have these very specialized ranges that have Olympic-style trap ranges on them.
I know what now to bring up to 717 Armory to put into their place.
Yep.
Absolutely think that those guys could manage putting one of them nice ones in. Indoor, too. That'd be awesome.
Now, is there an indoor one?
There's going to be.
Wow.
It's going to be awesome.
Yes. So I heard that there's actually a indoor Olympic trap range somewhere down in Georgia, someone told me about. And then there's one that I've been to over in Germany. And those are the only 2 indoor Olympic trap ranges that I know of.
Of all the coolest stuffs in Georgia.
Zach Brown probably owns it.
Yeah. Or Jeff Barron built it. One or the other.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, I know that I knew all that stuff, so I'm glad you're able to clear that up for the rest of these guys. I appreciate that.
So you're talking
I'm glad you sat back and just let her tell the story.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt. I was going to answer Bucky's question, but I let her go ahead.
Oh, good.
With 15 different trap machines, the variables that can come out of there whenever they blow the whistle or whatever it is, blow the air horn whenever you say pull, the variables coming out of there has got to be pretty crazy I can't imagine how many different directions and speeds they could go.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 9 different schemes that the targets can be set to. And there's basically 139 different variations of targets that you can see within those 9 schemes. So when we're shooting a competition, they'll set a scheme to that range, and they'll tell us what it is, but, no one has the schemes memorized, and you can't really shoot that way. It's a very instinctual game. So, definitely a lot of variation of targets that you have to practice to be prepared.
So 9 schemes, 139 variables.
That's 753,000 different variables.
I was just going to ask.
I did the math.
You did the math.
He's good. He's good.
Geez.
Boy's good.
753,000.
753,002, actually. I left the 2 off. I rounded down.
That's a lot.
Right after.
Rounded it down just to be safe.
Right after that, we're going to the casino.
Now, Cory, if there's only 12 locations in the United States that offer this style of trap, that's got to make it difficult for competitors like yourself to get training in.
Yeah.
How's that work for people that are trying out for the Olympic team or even on the Olympic team? How do you guys kind of prepare yourselves for that?
Yeah, well, it's definitely very difficult. You really have to kind of, live your life for the game. You have to live somewhere where you have access to be able to train. I train, 5 to 6 days a week, probably 9 months a year. So, you have to just, plant yourself somewhere that you can train. That's just short and sweet of it. There's definitely a lot of sacrifices that people make.
Yeah.
Fortunately, there's some really good training facilities in the U.S. that really try and, help athletes out and cater to us. There's a lot of people that live in those few areas where there's really good range access, great clubs that support the USA shooting team and, want to see us be successful.
That's awesome.
I hate to make this gory, but are you right-handed?
I am right-handed, but I'm actually, was left eye dominant. So I'm one of those 50% of women that are actually cross dominant.
Gotcha. But your right shoulder must look like Rocky Balboa's face. That's a lot of shooting.
Yeah, people ask me all the time. They're like, "Don't you get sore?" And oh my gosh, doesn't that hurt your shoulder? And I'm like, no, not really. I mean, you just get used to it. I mean, it's like anything, the more you work out, the less sore you get and the stronger you get. And it's kind of the same with shooting. I mean, early in the season, my shoulder definitely gets a little bruised, gets a little sore, but you just got to be a little tough, that's all.
I want to know how, whenever you train for this much, let me start this way. So you're sponsored, so obviously you don't buy your own shotgun shells. They're not coming out of your pocket. So does this Vanna White lady show up with a truck and be open the door and be whoa, here's all your shotgun shells. These are just for today. We'll bring 400,000 more next week. There's just a lot of ammunition there that has to come from somewhere.
There is, yeah. So I'm very fortunate. The USA shooting team has been sponsored by a couple of really good ammunition companies. Currently, we're sponsored by Federal, and we're super excited to be. They just developed a brand new Federal paper shell for us, which I don't know how much shotgun shooting you guys have done, but if you guys have ever shot and then smelled a Federal paper, it is like heaven. It smells so good. When we, when I get my ammo, I probably get maybe 20 cases or 30 cases at a time. I go through those pretty quick. I probably shoot 50,000 rounds a year. There's a lot of ammo going down range.
No,
that's more than you cast, Stevie.
You're living in a totally different world than us, Cory. Over here, Ryan just throws deer urine at us. So that's all that we smell.
I believe that doe estrus smells a little more like heaven.
I'll send you some Federal papers so you can smell them.
Please do. But a lot like shooting. The more doe urine you get, get used to it.
Well, I was just thinking she could start her own company. She could start a Hallmark card company that for hunters that sells
aromatherapy.
Send some of her targets out that she shot.
I like that. That's a great idea.
We're going to start a candle company, and we're going to make 2 cents federal paper and dough and estrus.
There you go.
We will sell a ton of those candles.
Plus, there's a lot of room to grow. I mean, we could,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to go bankrupt selling that, but all right.
I'll buy out half the supply.
Oh boy.
So, Cory, you're training an incredible amount. How do you know training that much whether you're getting better or not? Or are you training to get better? Are you training to maintain your skill level? Like how do you not top out at being just as awesome as
being
awesome?
At being an Olympian.
At being an Olympian.
How do you get better from that?
Yeah.
That's a really good question.
$1 million question right there.
Well, I mean, I think for me, because I've won 2 Olympic bronze medals, and
USA
incredibly close to winning those golds. That's kind of what continues to drive me. And, after this last Olympics in 2016 in Rio, I kind of came home and, obviously any medal is an incredible accomplishment, and I'm so incredibly thankful and blessed to have, won the medals that I have. But, I kind of sat back and said to myself, what do I need to do to get better? If I'm going to go another 4 years, how do I change that outcome from being third best in the world to being the best in the world? So that's a great question. I think, the mental aspect is really important. I was literally 1 target away from having a guaranteed gold or silver medal at the last Olympics. Pushing yourself in training and in competition, so that you can really perfect your mental game is a huge part of it. The other thing I did, that has been probably the hardest thing I've done in my entire career is switch from being a one-eyed shooter to 2 eyes. And I mentioned before that, I was cross-dominant growing up. So for the pretty much first 15 years of my career, I shot with a piece of tape on my shooting glasses, blocking out my left eye, forcing my right eye to be dominant. So after that last Olympics, I said, I really feel like the one thing that's holding me back is that, late in the day when usually finals are, the light's getting bad, I'm tired. I feel like, not having both of my eyes working together is really a handicap for me. So that was the decision that I made to kind of go down this journey of learning how to shoot with 2 eyes. And that's been the biggest challenge by far that I've ever undertook in my career.
It could be worse. I mean, the orange clays could look, black and white if you're Ryan. Ryan can't see color at all anyhow.
Yeah, he's got an issue with his cones.
Are you colorblind?
Cones,
It's rods and cones. But yes,
he doesn't like to talk about it.
Not a lot.
He definitely can't see stingrays in the water. I know that.
Cory, I've got to ask, how does one teach themselves at this stage in your career, shooting career, to go from 1 eye to 2 eyes? What all goes into that?
A lot. So I started this process just about 2 years ago now, and I started working with a eye doctor that gave me a lot of different exercises to help strengthen my right eye, to force that eye to be dominant, and to train that eye basically to be my dominant eye. And then I had to relearn basically really everything I knew about shooting, what a proper sight picture looks like. You can imagine if you've been dampening all of your senses by 50%, and then you take, that handicap away and you have 100% of your senses, you're so much faster. You can see things so much clearer, and you would think that would be great, but everything you've known about timing and sight picture and movement completely changes. So really having to relearn all of that from the ground up.
Cory, I'm a little slow here.
Yeah, it's true. He is.
Yeah.
You're aiming.
Don't sell yourself short, bud.
I'm a lot slow.
Yeah,
here.
you're really slow.
You're. Are you aiming with when you say a 2-eyed shooter? Are you aiming with both eyes open, or are you being able to switch between? Are you talking about switching between right eye or left eye?
No, both eyes open.
So
Ambidextrous.
yeah, so with a shotgun, the general rule of thumb is that you always want to keep both eyes open. So unlike shooting a rifle or a pistol, where you're really looking down the sight, trying to line the sights up with the scope or the beads or the sights, with a shotgun, you're really focusing on the target the whole time, and the sights are in the background.
Gotcha.
So everything is pretty much driven off of how your eyes are looking at the target. So when I say I went from being a one-eyed shooter, basically I was shooting a shotgun like I would a rifle. I was blocking out that undominant eye, which would have been my left eye. Obviously if you're shooting right-handed, you want your right eye looking down the barrel. But for me, my left eye was my dominant eye. So everyone has a dominant eye. Some people are left, some people are right. And so, some people are left-handed and left eye dominant, right-handed, right eye dominant. And then some people, actually about 50% of women, are cross dominant. Leave it to women to be the screwy ones. And a lot of us are right-handed and left eye dominant. So that's what I was. So it just makes your sight picture look super wonky. And you can't hit the broadside of the barn.
I must be half woman or part of that 50%.
You could be.
I'm the same way. I'm the same.
My son is also.
Is it?
Everything's right-handed. It's been all of his life. But when we start shooting archery, he's left eye dominant.
I close my right eye.
For Cory, with her left eye closed, with targets coming from left to right, she's actually missing milliseconds that could make a difference, probably with the target coming out.
Yep, absolutely. So most of the time, if you're shooting like a straightaway target and you're left eye dominant and you're shooting right-handed, you're going to miss to the side of the target because it appears that you're right on the target, but the wrong eye is looking at it, essentially. So, just like you shooting archery, you're wanting to see with that dominant eye, even though it's not your dominant hand.
Well, one of the things that I ended up doing with my son was having him shoot left-handed. So rather than retraining your eyes and working on your sight picture, did you ever consider shooting left-handed?
I was just going to ask.
Was that something that
ask her the same question?
You just have ruled that out, or?
Yeah, so I absolutely recommend everyone to do exactly what you did. If they have a child that they notice is like cross-dominant like that, is before you build that muscle memory of how to hold a gun or a bow, just switch them over to, match their dominant eye with their dominant hand. So unfortunately, when I, started shooting shotgun, my first coach, he just slapped a piece of tape on my left eye and forced my right eye to be dominant. And I shot like that for, 12 years and, was able to be successful doing it. And, it was the only thing I ever knew. But if I could go back in time, I would have definitely done exactly what you did.
His name was Chuck, wasn't it?
Chuck. No, his name was Dave, but I'm sure him and Chuck were probably pretty similar.
Well, my high school archery instructor's name was Chuck, and he tried to tell me to straighten my arm and bend my arm and straighten my arm and bend my arm.
What's Chuck know anyhow?
Yeah. Well, my dad was an archery instructor, and let me tell you, don't bend your arm when you shoot archery. Do you, Ryan?
Oh, you do.
Okay.
Oh.
Thanks, Chuck.
Listen, I'm more in Ryan's camp now. He's apparently dad of the year with all of his advice. And
why? Because he found a left-handed bow at a flea market and said, "You're shooting this one."
No, I just had a 2-time Olympic medalist confirm my theory. Yeah. So I'm good. I'm tapping out.
Left-handed flea market.
This is your day, bud. That's right. It's all coming up, Ryan.
Thank you, Cory.
Cody Chuck from now on.
Cory, I want to move into a little bit of the our wheelhouse, and let's talk about some things that you enjoy when you're not shooting constantly.
I love that idea.
Like, what do you have time to enjoy the outdoors?
I do. Not as much as I'd like, but I think a lot of people could say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, love to hunt, love to fish. When I can get back home to Alaska, especially in late summer, early fall, I love to hit the salmon runs. That's one of my biggest passions. And then, I love to hunt in the fall. Last fall, I got to go on my first elk hunt in Colorado, and that was amazing. Growing up in Alaska, I got to do a lot of really cool big game hunting, but I still haven't gotten to do a ton of deer hunting down in lower 48, which is kind of backwards for a lot of people. They're all wanting to go hunt moose and bears and stuff up in Alaska, and I'm just like, man, I want to kill a huge mule deer.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely get to go out, but not as much as I'd like to.
So you're down in Florida, which is for all intents and purposes widely considered the fishing capital of the world.
Yeah.
Have you been able to take advantage of that resource?
I have a little bit. So my husband and I, when we first moved down here, so we moved here about 6 months ago, we went over to the Palm Beach area and we did some deep sea fishing. And that was my first kind of like warmer water deep sea fishing that I got to do. And I have to tell you, it's definitely way more fun than hauling a halibut up from like 300 feet down in the ocean.
How is that more fun than that?
Halibut fishing is like hauling a dead body off the bottom of the ocean.
I so want to do that.
You get to shoot the halibut.
Yeah, twice a week.
Body
That is true. You get to like hunt and fish at the same time. I mean, that is cool, but but yeah, I mean, we got to fish for some molly, kingfish, and God, what else did we catch? We caught a whole ton of different kind of species of fish, and it was awesome. I mean, yeah, I'm definitely hooked. I want to get out again.
So how far away are you from Miami? Maybe we should hook her up with Boog and let her go catch some peacock bass.
Yeah, you got to get.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I would love that.
We can get you set up with the peacock bass for
we
sure.
know some people in Florida.
We know a whack of guys down there that are just all over that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be awesome. Well, yeah, I'd love to go fish for some peacock bass. I really also want to do some like fly fishing in the Everglades. I think that would be awesome. So yeah, I need to figure out who is my fly fishing connection down here in Florida, because I'm pretty hooked on that too.
Yeah, I'll get on that. I'll figure that out.
Do you do any hunting down there?
I haven't done any hunting yet, but I really want to do some pig hunts for sure. I know the pig hunting down here is amazing. A couple years ago, my husband and I came down here and we hunted Osceola turkeys. And that was for my North American Grand Slam. Nice. Osceola was the last one I needed. So that was really cool. So I'd really like to do that, this spring again, now that we're living down here. And then I totally want to kill a gator for sure. I think that would be amazing.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm a girl's girl too, so I'd love a purse and some boots.
Nice.
Leanna says the same thing. Like she had, like that's on her bucket list is to have me kill a gator for that purpose.
I totally missed this whole what was going on. I thought she was like in Florida training. She actually lives in Florida.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. So what we actually have is we have a whole nother house to go stay at now, is what I hear.
So it sounds like
in a different area.
I'm just gonna.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you, Catfish is one, never met a stranger, and number two, you're gonna find him invite himself to different things that you probably didn't plan on.
I'm very good at sleeping on couches, garages, and just showing up at like 2 a.m. and going, "Are we going fishing?"
Let's roll.
You're always going to do something epic. I can guarantee when Catfish shows up, it's going to be epic.
I don't like to pay for hotels, and I don't take up a lot of space.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you can give us the fishing or hunting hookup, I got a couch with your name on it.
I love it.
There it is.
Careful
Done
what you
and
wish
done.
for.
I will bring my 410, and we will hunt pigeons in Florida.
He He loves that thing.
I love my 410. I
He
can't.
has, yeah.
Do you ever
Maybe you
miss?
can get him to shoot a 12
I
gauge
don't miss
sometime.
much. I like guys make fun of me because I hunt pheasants with it. But
With your
it's-
410?
yeah, it's a heck of a. It's a good challenge. You got to get close.
Absolutely. And don't ruin any meat.
Aim,
Exactly.
aim small, shoot small.
That's a good question,
I
Stevie.
feel like you and my dad would get along great.
Hunting squirrels with a 410 is kind of how I cut my teeth growing up as hunting. So yeah, like shotguns have a big, huge soft spot in my heart for
That sounds
shotguns.
like Bucky
in general.
too, right, Buck? Yeah.
I love shooting shotguns.
Real quick, let me ask you a question that's been burning me up here. So the two medals, one was in Rio, was that right?
Yes.
And where was the other one?
The other one was in Beijing in 2008.
Gotcha. So if there were, if it were to be coming up, where would the next one be?
The next one will be in Tokyo in 2020.
So you get to go to Tokyo. Is there a couch there? Because I've not been to Tokyo before.
Well, I got to qualify for Tokyo first, and then I'll have to look into the couch for you.
Yeah. So
You can do it.
when you get to go to these places, like this was my question, do they give you any downtime to just like 10 hours a day or whatever, just go do whatever you want?
For the most part, we usually get like one off day. Usually the day after we travel, we don't practice or compete. So that's usually our one day to kind of explore and see the sights and everything. And then the rest of the time, honestly, it's pretty much from the hotel to the range, back from the range to the hotel. And, you're at the range 10 plus hours a day. And, when you're done there, you really don't want to go explore. You just want to melt into your bed and fight the jet lag.
And this is exactly why I know I'm not an Olympic athlete, because I just would see that as an opportunity to just party. Like, let's go have fun. We're in a whole new country. Let's just let loose and go crazy for a while.
I agree. How patriotic
not
would it
Olympic.
be to just run down the street of Rio with this is my 12 gauge. And I'm here. This is part of me. I'm just going to walk around to the different bars with my 12 gauge, and I'm in Rio. That's right.
I don't think me and Catfish would medal. I'm pretty sure we would not.
Yeah, I don't think that'd probably be a good idea. But I mean,
You would have ended up with the swimmers in the pokey.
It might have
probably.
Yeah.
you would have been
They call
one
that
of
a
those
Tuesday.
international incidents, I can tell.
Oh man,
Without a doubt.
That's their middle names.
That's on his bucket list. Is international incident.
Rut River's been in an international incident for a while.
Did we
Just mark that off the bucket list.
Oh yeah, we're starting our third season of international incidents.
We didn't cause one this year, though, I don't think.
Corey, if you would have a young girl or a young boy come up to you and ask you any questions about getting into shooting, what kind of what kind of advice would you give them as a starting out shooter?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is just to go out there and have fun. Don't worry too much about hitting or missing the target in the beginning. Just make sure that you're listening to your instructor, trying to, really pay attention and take it all in and go out there and have fun. I mean, it's such a fun sport. It's something that, if you learn, you can do for the rest of your life. So just go out there, have fun. Don't take it too seriously. Like I said, I really sucked in the beginning. I hit like 3 out of 25 targets. So just because, you don't hit a couple, your first time doesn't mean that you can't learn and can't get better.
You hear that, Ryan?
Yeah, Corey, thank you so much for saying that, because as good of a dad as Ryan is, he actually wrote and took a note there. Like, it was really good.
Yeah. There's still time. So what you're telling me, there's
still a chance.
Yeah, he's going to use that one.
Well, that's great advice. So at your level, though, and this might even be personal, you don't have to answer it, but what goes through Corey's head when you miss a target in competition?
Oh, that's a good one. So I always kind of describe the mental game as like the waves in the ocean. So your thoughts are like the waves in the ocean, and you can't stop the waves in the ocean, but you can learn how to surf them. So your thoughts are just like that. You can't stop those thoughts from coming in your mind. You just have to learn how to deal with them. So, I think that people that are really successful in the shooting sports or a really extremely mental sport, they've just learned how to deal with all those thoughts that go through their mind. I mean, I definitely have negative thoughts. I deal with fear and insecurity, all of those little things kind of creep in and come into the back of your brain. And it's really what you do with that and how you kind of learn to surf those thoughts that, separates the people that are pretty good and, the people that are great. So, sometimes I go into a match and it is like, I'm super confident and, everything is super positive that's going in my mind. Or, maybe I haven't really trained that well, leading up to it. And I've got kind of some of that insecurity in the back of my mind and a little bit of that fear. And, I've got to battle through that, through the match. So it just really depends on, kind of how the match is going, how I've prepared for the match, how I've been shooting, what's going on in my personal life. There's a lot that plays into it for sure.
Yeah. That's way more honest of an answer than I was expecting.
Yeah, no,
I really appreciate you saying that. And not that I was expecting you to lie, but a lot of times you just hear, people say things like, oh, you can't let those thoughts creep in. You got to force them out. You got to work around them. You got to battle through them.
Yeah.
I like the waves end.
But that analogy of riding the wave, like you can't stop those thoughts. They're coming in like the waves, the ocean. You can't stop. That's
use that in real life.
That is brilliant.
Just trying to fall asleep. I like that.
Love it.
My thoughts of insecurity when I'm shooting is like a tsunami. And it's like
I got wet by standing next to you.
You just stand in front of me and it smacks you in the face.
Yeah, I'm
like the Andrea Gale. I can't. I'm not gonna. I don't.
The rudder's gone, Captain. I
can't overcome it.
We're going down. So going on that too is like one last question, I guess, from me is as far as competition goes is like whenever I was younger, I shot a good deal of archery like at a state level, which was no big deal. But to me, it was at 15. Do you have problems? I had a lot of problems. I was laser focused and I was really good at what I did until my girlfriend showed up to watch. Do you ever have and I fell apart badly?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you're not telling the whole thing.
Yeah.
2 girlfriends.
When both girlfriends
showed up at the same time.
Right, that's a whole nother level. I get it now.
Yeah.
That's a lot of waves to surf, I can tell you.
It sure was. So, no, but like when family shows up to a big, like at the Olympic level, when you have people that are watching you other than like your coach, you're used to being around. When your husband,
Americans.
when your very small husband that you have shows up that I've seen pictures of to watch you, does that ever get to you mentally, or is it just better if you're there doing it without them there? Does that make sense? Like my family always made me nervous when it got higher level of competition.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really boils down to like whatever you do in practice, you should do in competition. I mean, for me, for the last 10 years, I really haven't had, my parents there, any family there during my competitions. My husband's work schedule doesn't really allow him to come to many of my competitions. So for the most part, I'm really on my own. So I kind of like to keep, what I do in practice to what I do in competition as well. Now, that being said, the Olympics is a very special event. So, I've had friends want to come to that. And my family came to the second Olympics I was in London in 2012. I can just kind of deal with it by saying like, hey, look, I'd love to have you there. I'd love for you to be there and witness, this great experience for me. But you're on your own. Don't call me if you have a problem. Don't text me. You're completely on your own. So that's kind of how I deal with it. That's kind of alleviated a lot of stress on me at those big matches. Because you can't be worried about like, oh, are they here? Did their, driver pick them up? Did they get to the venue? Did they get in? All this stuff. But I did have an interesting thing happen in Rio. One of my close friends, he wanted to come to Rio, and I told him, I said, okay, you can come, but, same deal. You're on your own. I can't help you find a place or find transportation or anything. It's got to be your own thing. And he's a very, very capable guy. So, he came to Rio. We talked the morning of my event. He said, hey, I'm on my way. I'm going out to shoot my first round. And I look up into the stands, and I cannot find him anywhere in the stands. I'm like looking and waiting. I'm like, man, it is not like this guy, to not be here.
Well,
like
he was out by the corner. You got to be patient.
I thought, I'm like, okay, maybe he's, wandering around checking out the sites. Well, I go out to shoot my first round. He's nowhere to be seen. And in the back of my head, I'm like, oh my God, like he got killed somewhere on the side of the road in Rio, and he's in a ditch, like, who knows? There's some pretty
man trafficking,
sketchy stuff that happened there. So, and he didn't show up until halfway through my first round, and I turned around and he looked totally disheveled, just pouring sweat, totally stressed out. And, I'm trying to focus through my first round of, Olympic competition. I'm like, this is exactly why you don't have friends and family come to this stuff.
Just leave them at home.
Exactly. So, you got to be able to tune that stuff out if you do involve your family. That's for sure.
But speaking of family, I mean, this podcast is all about you, so I don't want to turn any tables around, but are we allowed to mention your small husband?
Yeah, you can talk about him.
I mean, he's got to be at least 5'8". So
5'9", probably
5'9". You think?
On a good day.
He's just a little guy.
And I'm very sorry, I forgot his first name.
So his name is Mitch. Our married last name is Unrein. So Mitch Unrein, and he's a big guy. He's about 6'5", 305.
He wouldn't happen to be hanging out in the Tampa Bay area, would he?
He is. Yeah. He's currently playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's a defensive lineman, and he just started his 9th year in the league. So
awesome.
That's great.
He must be a cute little guy.
He's a big teddy bear.
No,
I doubt
he sounds
that.
precious.
He sounds precious.
It's funny though. Like it's really nice. Like I've seen some interviews, and you can tell how much respect he has for Cory, and gives you all the props. It says that you're a better shooter than he is.
I love that interview.
It's the best.
And that interview says when your wife teaches you how to shoot, you got to swallow your pride. Yeah, I love that interview. It's super cool. You have a support group.
I went through a couple boyfriends before him, and I always told my dad, I said, I think I'll know the one when, I teach him to shoot and he doesn't act, all pompous and like, oh, I can't believe this girl's out shooting me and teaching me how to shoot, and he was so, humble the first time we went out to the range and really listened to all the instruction that I had to give him. And, he wasn't that big macho guy that wouldn't take instruction from a woman. I'm like, you know what? This guy's pretty secure in himself. That's a good sign.
Yeah,
absolutely.
9 years in the NFL will do that to you, I would imagine, huh?
Absolutely.
If I'm not mistaken, too, he's no stranger to a shotgun. I think he grew up waterfowl hunting for the most part, right?
He did, yeah. So he grew up pretty much in the farmlands of Colorado, north of Denver. So yeah, he grew up, during doing waterfowl and upland bird hunting with his family. He's played football pretty much all his life. So unfortunately, he's been pretty much tied up every fall during big game hunting, but that's definitely on his plan as soon as he's done playing football is he wants to go deer hunting.
Wow. That's awesome.
As far as your dad goes, I guess all dads worry about their daughter, especially with the world traveling you've done to China and everywhere else. But I guess there's no better way to not worry about your daughter than to know that she's a world-class shotgun shooter. Don't you worry about her going to Tokyo? No, not at all.
Nope.
She's good. She's good.
Oh yeah, we definitely have guns all over the house, and he knows I know how to use them. So I mean, we're all about the make my day law. You come into my house, you're gonna have a very bad day.
Wow.
Now, Cory, the one thing that I know the hunting community struggles with in recent years is getting the younger generation involved. Is that something that you see carrying over into the shooting sports industry, just given the current environment and the big anti-gun movement?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do see that to some extent. In certain disciplines in the shooting sports, we've seen a lot of growth as well, especially in kind of the women and, youth women coming into the shotgun sports. I've definitely seen an increase in that.
Great.
In, say, the last 10 years, which is awesome. And there's some really great youth organizations that have, started introducing like junior high and high school level kids into specifically the shotgun disciplines. But I mean, it's definitely something that we still struggle with. It's just like hunting and fishing. Unless you have someone that's kind of bringing you into that, most people are really intimidated to just go to a range and say, hey, my name's Sally, I don't know anything about this. Teach me how to do it. You really have to have, people bringing you into it. So, I think the most important thing as, outdoorsmen is to really continue to pass on, that passion, to not be afraid to, take your friends to the range. I mean, just a couple weeks ago, we took a group of like 70 linemen from Tampa Bay out to the range here, and I think 5 out of the 7 had never shot before. And by the end of the day, they were like all obsessed. They're like, when can we go next? This is the most fun thing we've ever done. Like, how do we get a shotgun? What shotgun should we buy? And
that's great.
That's the experience that I, see with really bringing anyone out to the range is you introduce them to the sport, you share your love and your passion with it. And most people, they love it. And even if they're not into hunting per se, just the shooting sports in general, I mean, shooting shotguns is like golfing with a shotgun. You can walk through the woods, go shoot some sporting clays, go drink a couple beers afterwards and chill with your friends. And, it's a great way to spend the afternoon.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Cory, you're standing there, and this might be tough for you to describe, but you're standing there at the end of the Olympics or the end of your event, and you've trained for 4 years for this particular Olympics, and you're about to get your medal, knowing that you represented your country, the best in your country, and and I don't care that, bronze, silver, gold, that there's such a small.
She's on the podium.
You're on the podium. I mean, you're all the same at that point. I mean, there's really not that much separating you. What you're representing your country at that point. What's going through your mind?
The whole world's looking at you.
The whole world's looking at you. Put that into words for us.
I mean, honestly, it's just the most amazing feeling. My 2 favorite feelings that I've ever felt at the Olympics was one, walking into opening ceremonies with over, 550 American athletes. You walk out, you hear USA called, and everyone's chanting USA. And that's that first moment that, you really realize you're at the Olympics, you're representing your country, you're walking behind the flag, and you're really there. Yeah. And it's just such an incredible feeling of pride that you feel, to be an American. And then, the ultimate feeling is standing on that podium. And I kind of describe it like your life flashes before your eyes. You really? See all the good days, all the bad days, all the people that helped you along the way, all the people that tried to tear you down and told you couldn't do it. And, you have this just complete rush of emotions. It's like the biggest feeling of relief, because you've been, your nerves are on 1,000 for the last several weeks. You've been fighting that anxiety all day, and finally that releases, and then just this intense feeling of just, being overjoyed and, sense of accomplishment that you've worked 4 years literally for this moment, and you were able to capitalize on it, and you're standing on the podium, and just how grateful you are to be standing there, getting a medal put around your neck, no matter what color it is.
I can't imagine the anxiety.
I have goosebumps.
Yeah, I do too. I was thinking, I don't even know what it would feel like to go, I have to wait 4 more years to try this again.
Yeah.
It seems like an eternity. I can imagine if it was just 1 year, it would feel like an eternity, but 4 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it really, especially, for my sport, and I know there's other sports like mine where, unlike swimming and gymnastics and, some of those other sports, track and field, where they have, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 chances to win a medal. My event is one day I have one chance, and I have no second chance. I don't have another event to go compete in where I can win that medal. So, the fact that it all 4 years of work comes down to one day and being able to perform on that one day. And when you're able to do that, it's the best feeling in the world.
God bless you.
Cory, asking for a friend with such a deluge of emotions, all in one day. How do you stop from just losing it on that podium with all that emotion and just sobbing?
You wouldn't be able to take it, Buck.
I wouldn't. My friend wouldn't.
You would have a stroke. You would have a stroke.
You have to. I think you have to squeeze your butt cheeks.
Yeah.
Like really,
and your eyes
really tight.
How did you do that? Like
squeeze her butt cheek?
No, like
Keep it together.
Keep it together.
It would be difficult.
Well, usually I'm pretty much cried out by that point because, so both of my Olympic medals have been won in a shoot-off scenario, like a sudden death shoot-off.
Oh, gosh.
So, you want to talk about, like, heightening anxiety and pressure and emotions. Yeah. That'll do it.
I'd need Ativan.
Like, so if you literally just, like, Google my name at like 2016 Olympics, probably half of the pictures you'll see is me just like with the ugly cry face as soon as I won, because I just literally lost it.
I think we all would.
My friend would be there with you.
Yeah. Incredible. So, and I have another question. I'm also fortunate. I have a buddy who was in Beijing, and he ran in the marathon. And
nice.
So like, he didn't actually get to go to like opening ceremonies because of the conditions and things like that in Beijing, and they were training. It's the last event, so they're training outside of Beijing before the race. And my question to you is like, over the Olympics that you attended, you got to have friends that, perennial athletes that are showing up. Like, it's got to be a wild time, going into it like that.
Yeah, I think, it's amazing to be able to have been to 3 Olympics, and I've gotten to share that with some of my really good friends that have been to those 3 Olympics as well. So it's a great experience to be able to, share that camaraderie with the other Olympians. It's definitely some awesome parties at the Olympics, especially as, things are kind of wrapping up and a lot of people have, finished their events. Everyone is, in that celebratory mode. And it's a really special time to be able to spend that with, other Americans. And, even though you don't know them going into the Olympics, you make so many friends along the way that I still stay in touch with. So yeah, it's definitely a big party at the end and an awesome experience.
It's such a small fraternity. And that's the other thing too. And I know that was, for all intents and purposes, my buddy, that was a measure, of his life's accomplishments. You know what I mean? He didn't feel like he did it until he made it to the Olympics. You know what I mean? Like he had something to prove, and my heart goes out. I know how hard, he worked and I'm hearing how hard you work. It's incredible. Like I said, my heart goes out to you guys and thank you for doing what you do, because you show us all that something great can be done. We're all human, and this is...
Yeah. Well, it's hard to commit to anything. It's hard to commit to a diet for a month, and these people commit their whole entire lives to something and don't quit. It's the commitment level over the 4 years it's unfathomable to the normal person.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're not the normal person, Cory. You're up there on a level that most people don't understand, and I wouldn't actually... say this to many people, but I would caddy your shotgun shows around if you would need somebody to follow you around in Tokyo.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah.
I'm definitely honored to get to do what I do, and you can be my caddy anytime.
We've talked to a lot of people over the last couple years, a lot of people that were just fantastic at their sport, but this is the first time we've ever talked to the best in the world at something, like literally the best in the world. So unfortunately we are out of time.
Yeah.
We are out of time.
We could do this for a couple more hours.
We barely scratched the surface, but
I'll tell you what else she says when I get to Florida tomorrow. And get on the
You'll see in 14 hours.
Who is this?
Yeah. He'll do a Facebook Live. It'll
Morning.
be Morning.
I'm here.
Thank you for being such an awesome ambassador of our country.
Absolutely.
And just being a great example for us. I mean, an inspiration for us on how to stay dedicated at something that you started out, your own words was, I sucked.
Yeah.
That's just awesome that you went from that to being best in the world. So,
absolutely.
Awesome job. Kudos to you, and good luck in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you guys so much. It's been a blast chatting with you guys, and hopefully we can get out in the field one day together.
Oh yeah. Don't tempt us with it.
Cory, for everybody listening now, so they can keep tabs on what's going on with your progress and how things are going, where can people follow you or see what's going on with Cory?
So you can follow me on Instagram at my name, Cory Cogdell. And then also on Facebook, I have a Facebook kind of fan page you can follow me at. Everything's under my name, Cory Cogdell. So just Google me, Twitter me, Instagram me, whatever you want to do, you can follow me that way.
You got it. You got it. This has been incredible.
Fantastic.
It's one of my favorite episodes. Guys, where can they find us?
Well, they can find us at RuttenRiverPursuits.com. And, of course, all of these social media properties, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, just search Rutten River Pursuits. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel, Rutten River Pursuits Podcast.
And don't forget to jump on our Facebook page and share and like Ryan's video for your chance to win the Deeper Pro Plus. It's going on as this podcast airs.
And if you're hungry,
check out Moses Family Jerky, mfjerky.com. Use coupon code JerkyPursuits15 for 15% off everything on the site.
The whole site.
The whole site.
Nicely done, fellas.
It's delicious.
The whole industry.
I have one thing to wrap this up that frustrated me today.
What's that, bud?
Oh, dear Lord, here it comes.
Will sent me a post of Bob's Your Uncle Bait Company or
that
something.
Wasn't me. Someone let me know.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you find it?
Yeah.
Who in the world came up with Bob's Your Uncle?
They probably heard of the podcast.
Oh, man.
Guarantee it.
We gave
Stevie,
it away.
you missed it. You could have. That could have.
No, that was Ryan.
That was our golden egg.
That was our goose.
I blew it.
I know, but you could have came up with it.
You blew it.
All right.
Thank you, Cory.
Yeah. Thank you, Cory.
Thanks, Cory.
Thank you, guys.
Rig 'em weedless.
Bob's Your Uncle.
Peace.
Trash Band Hip River.
Trash Man Hippolyte LLC Incorporated.
Just trying to fall asleep. I like that.
Love it.
My thoughts of insecurity when I'm shooting is like a tsunami. And it's like
I got wet by standing next to you.
You just stand in front of me and it smacks you in the face.
Yeah,
I'm like the Andrea Gale. I can't. I'm not gonna. I don't.
The rudder's gone, Captain. I
can't overcome it.
We're going down.
We're gonna start a candle company, and we're gonna make 2 cents, federal paper and dough and estrus.
There you go.
We will sell a ton of those candles.